Good afternoon, everyone. We extend our warmest greetings and heartfelt welcome to each and every one of you gathered here. Today, we gather here as a collective of bright minds, industry experts, and thought leaders, each and every one. Today, we gather here as a collective of bright minds, industry experts, and thought leaders to delve into an engaging and enlightening discussion on investing in prosperity, fostering innovation and entrepreneurship in tourism. It is with great enthusiasm that we gather here to explore the transformative power of innovation and entrepreneurship in tourism. We are honored to have a distinguished panel of visionaries and trailblazers who have joined us today. Their presence exemplifies their commitment to driving change, fostering growth, and reimagining the possibilities within the realm of tourism. It is our privilege to introduce our esteemed panelists. We have with us Mr. Chirag Agarwal, co-founder, TravelClan. Mr. Agarwal has been at the forefront of revolutionizing the travel industry, with experience in both establishing new businesses as well as scaling up existing ones. Mr. Agarwal has launched Oyo Metro Homes from the ground and managed a P&L worth US $30 million. His expertise in leveraging technology and collaborations has propelled travel plans to new heights. Next, we have Mr. Manoj Samuel, CEO and Director, Ria Travels. Mr. Samuel is an industry expert with close to nearly 2 decades of industry experience. Known for being a technocrat, he not only played a key role in establishing the IT department within his company, but also streamlined various other departments within the company to make it to the success it is today. Today, Ria Travels has become synonymous with excellence and have been performing very well and have mapped themselves in the tourism sector. We have with us Mr. Kanwardeep Singh. With over 30 plus years of diverse experience, Mr. Singh has a proven record of scaling up new businesses as well as starting new ones. Recipient of the Entrepreneur of the Year in 2017 by the India Travel Awards. His passion for fostering entrepreneurship and nurturing innovation played a vital role in the success of travel tours. Also, we have joining with us Dr. Mohita Sharma, chairperson of IIM Sirmaur, with a vast experience in academics and research, joining the panel. Recipient of the National Education Leadership Award, Best Teacher in Operations Management in 2013, she brings a rich experience of the industry as well as research into the panel. These esteemed panelists bring together a diverse range of experiences, expertise, and insights that will undoubtedly ignite stimulating discussions and shed light on the opportunities that lie within the vast sector of tourism. To our esteemed audience, we express our deepest appreciation for your presence here today. Your active engagement and participation will make this discussion create new connections and pave way for innovative ideas to flourish. Together, we can unlock the untapped potential within the tourism sector, as well as create a future that thrives on innovation, entrepreneurship, and sustainability. Once again, we extend a warm welcome to each and every one of you gathered here. Thank you and enjoy an enlightening discussion that lie ahead. Now, I request our moderator for the panel discussion today, Mr. Harshal Sawant, to take over and go ahead with the discussions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I will begin with a small intro, kind of like a panel start. So imagine an industry that takes you on an unforgettable journey. So it introduces you to new cultures and gives you a story to tell you for a lifetime. Did I mention that this plays a vital role in boosting regional economies, creating jobs, and fostering cultural engagement? Well, welcome to the world of tourism, where excitement and adventure meet relaxation and indulgence. So, you may ask, what is the secret ingredient of this industry? That always says, why not? Well, this secret ingredient is innovation. We are talking about technologies like artificial intelligence, augmented reality that are straight out of sci-fi movies. These innovations are not just fancy buzzwords. They help us create mind-blowing experiences, streamline operations, and preserve the beauty of our natural and cultural heritage. But hold on, does not just magically happen. It needs a superhero partner to make things truly epic. Enter the entrepreneur. The entrepreneurs are dreamers, the risk takers, and the movers and shakers of the industry. They are the ones who see the gap in the market and think, hey, can I fill that gap? They pioneer new business ideas. They introduce new concepts that make travelers go, wow, why didn't I think of that? They have vision, passion, and an unstoppable determination to make their mark in the world. They bring us mind blowing experiences, create jobs, and make the world a little bit smaller, but a whole lot more connected. So, let's take a closer look into the world of tourism. Grab your passports and let's delve into this panel discussion. I would not reintroduce the panel, but I would straight away go into asking question. Uh, let's go with the easier part. I will start with KV sir. Sir, what do you think about what is the first thing that comes to your mind when we talk about innovation?
So, well, innovation could be on multiple spheres. Right? Innovation could be that for a new idea where you're solving a problem which could either help you scale, help you grow a business, or make it profitable. Any of these three things. Right? Innovation could also be that you are able to make an existing business which is profitable and more efficient. So, in my own way, efficiency is innovation leads to efficiency in any way, whether it's growth, whether it's costs, whether it is profitability of a company. So that's where I leave the innovation.
Okay. Chirag sir, what are your views on innovation?
So see, innovation it is very subjective, right? In the sense, there are multiple aspects of thinking about it. When I look at travel and even other sectors, so I think there are two types of innovation. One is which is more hardware and infrastructure oriented. For example, what we did, right? With what they're still trying to do with standardization of hotels across India was that was a genuine problem in that budget category. So that is more of a hardware problem which I believe they're trying to solve. Then again, what government is trying to do with building up more and more highways, so that connectivity between different cities across India is more streamlined. Government is doing the same with railways as well, with the production of high-speed trains. The second type of innovation, which is relatively, I would say, less capital intensive, is software innovation or platform innovation or channel innovation, which is what many companies are trying to do today. Even, for example, what we are trying to do is we are trying to help travel agents compete in an ever growing, more competitive environment. We are helping them to compete with bigger travel companies by providing them with all the tech tools so that they can compete with any of the bigger players at a very affordable cost and with minimal resources. So there are different types of innovation. Again, innovation is also a lot of times confused with entrepreneurship. I don't think both of them are synonymous.
Sir, I think you need to be innovative to become an entrepreneur, or you need to become an entrepreneur to become innovative. What do you think?
Not so. I would agree with the second statement more. Right. So first one is not necessary. You can be an entrepreneur. You can just copy paste whatever companies are doing. So that is not true. On the other side, yes, if you are innovative, you are at least entrepreneurial in nature, right? It can be within an organization. So you don't have to be a startup entrepreneur yourself, right? You can do that within any setup. But yes, if you are innovative, then you are more likely to be an entrepreneur, but not necessary.
I think also what a lot of people confuse that you can only innovate to something new. You can't innovate if there's an existing business or existing industry. Innovation could happen to almost everything possible on Earth today. So when you build efficiency, it could be innovating a process, it could be innovating, Chirag said, you could do a new software which would help solve the automation process and make it less manual, less labor intensive. Any amount of innovation, and you could just bring a business or industry which is already extremely saturated, but with just one small innovation, you will completely change the whole look of the PNL. So innovation is not just can be defined in one word. There can't be an Oxford dictionary meaning. It is day-to-day life.
Like drawing from technology and innovation, like I would like to Manoj sir to put in.
We have covered.
I think they have covered everything. I don't think I have to add anything there. But innovation can be the processes also. Probably a sales process. What currently we are going through can be changed. So it can be a small process change also can be innovation. So whatever that, I think they mostly covered it. Tech point of view, as you said, Chirag said, there are a lot of tech innovations happening in the small, big ways, and which is changing the way the travel today is. 15 years back, what travel was, today it's completely automated, end-to-end automated. I think hardly 5 to 10% of business today it's offline, which is called manual. The rest 90% is automated, online. So that's a big innovation. So over the years, actually, that's innovation has always been important through here.
What the
Implementation.
and,
Change management. People don't want to change. So people are you used to 15 years, 16 years, they don't want to change. The change management and implementation is the biggest. You can build anything. The problem is, are people going to use that? That's the challenge.
I think mostly the challenges are the acceptance by the internal customers. It is to make your internal customers accept a new process, a new innovation, a new method, a new way of doing business. I think the resistance that comes in from fear, from being insecure and stuff like that. I think once with the things properly.
So I think, like Manoj said, it is to do with people accepting the change. As human beings, we are very, very, restrictive in our thought process when it comes to change management. So the biggest enemy of any innovation is the acceptance by the people who pretty much need that innovation to, make their life better.
So, Chirag. Sir.
So when I landed, we also got innovation and I think that is something that should be there in your mind. The moment that kind of an alternative thing that anything for that matter can be seen with an alternate perspective. So keep that time in your mind. It would is there a possibility of changing that the way you see things? In fact, when I landed in Bangla, and as we see, many of you would have
So in travel industry, sir, I would like to ask you that, Archie. So within that, when you formed Craft Plan, so that was an innovative idea within itself. So what was the first resistance that came from customers and from like within the industry?
So see, for any individual, like Katie was mentioning or Manoj was mentioning, change is a difficult thing, right? None of us wants to change our daily habits. If somebody is used to getting up at 7 a.m., it's very difficult for that person to keep on that by an hour. Right? So change management becomes even more difficult as you keep on repeating that activity. Right? Now, if you look at how travel industry is operating, so there are lots and lots of very small and medium size, I would say very small enterprises, right? And when it comes to very small enterprises, they are always short of resources in terms of money, intellect, time, right? I would say all three. So when you're short of resources, then investing in a change because you need to learn something new. So that's time consuming, or it will take up your resources. So that becomes the barrier. So for example, when we launched Trackland, we initially built it like a marketplace platform. And for agents and suppliers to understand how a marketplace can operate. In travel industry, it was very difficult for us to explain to all the suppliers that okay, you are going to various travel events, you are spending 10 lakh, 20 lakh rupees over there for 3 days of event. But it was very difficult for us to convince them to pay 15,000 rupees for a 3 month subscription. And at the same time, with that 15,000, we were giving them a much wider audience and a continued touch point. So, to make people shift from that physical exhibition mindset to a digital visibility mindset, right? So, that was one challenge. Then we started providing travel agents with websites. Now, when we launched websites, everyone wanted, it's a very small example, everyone wanted it to be highly customizable, they wanted to add packages themselves, right? So, we built all those functionalities. But the reality is, travel agents don't want to put in that effort to add packages themselves or to even customize it. And it's practically click of a button. You just see 50 templates, you just click on one of them and the website is changed. But even for that very simple activity, people don't want to go to the website and see that, okay, where is the button located? So that resistance to change is very high. And I think that is where the reward lies as well, right? If you are able to overcome that, if you are able to train people well on that change that you are trying to bring in, so then that's something which is very difficult for any other competitor to beat. Right? So that is something which we have faced when it came to customers. Specifically from industry, I would say it's something similar we have experienced on the supply side. So this is more on the customer front. On the supply side also to make people understand about newer technologies, how they can sell faster to the travel agents. So again, there is a barrier to pick up anything new. Other than that, I think as long as you can provide a very simple to use, easy interface, which doesn't take the three resources, like I said, money, time, or intellect, people are fairly comfortable. And that is something which we try to harp upon as a company.
You want me to add?
Yes, sir, please.
First, you have to understand my business first. Okay. So I'll tell you a bit about our business actually. You guys might not be knowing because we are not a brand which is very much seen outside. So we are more of a B2B company. We deal with around 65,000 travel agents. So I'll explain what he was saying. Okay. We empower these travel agents with all the content. When I say content, it's the air, hotel, even APIs. So all the contents we bridge into an API and we provide them. Okay, and these agents operate and we manage their, complete sales in terms of any support they require. We provide them in terms of even working along with them. So certain things what they intend to do themselves, we do it for them. Okay, that's so we divide this into two parts also. Which is, some are called online and some called offline. Okay, offline is manually, we manage manually. Okay, so these things, certain new things, when we innovate and bring it out in the market, these guys are also not ready to accept it because industry is having certain terms, so they operate in that. And plus, there's a dearth of people in the market. These travel agents operate with one single person, 2 person maximum. Okay, they want to completely depend either on somebody or somebody who does it and gives to them. That's our business. That's very
Sir,
important. Yeah.
what would be the success rate of innovative ideas flowing and actually being implemented?
So it depends on our team also. How our team goes and pushes in the market. So the team on the ground, they have to go and sell this properly to get it implemented. Similarly for interview also. For us, the COVID has actually helped us to implement a lot of things. It pushed up because they can't be operating from offices. They had to accept the automation. So it was very difficult. We are a 40-year-old company. The problem is that we have a mix of some 50, 60-year-old people also and 23-year-old people also. So to work them together is a very difficult task for us. Okay. Some older guys don't.
Sir, I would like to debate on this part. Who do you think are more innovative, like the experienced ones or the new ones?
So young at heart. So age doesn't matter.
Age doesn't matter.
Young at heart. So some 23-year people are also having a problem. So it's not that. So it's yeah. Please.
I think this debate itself is a non-starter because it's not about what's your age, it's what's your attitude. So I'll give you a very small example. My dad is today 78, right? When we formed the company about 30 years back, he used to come to office to help us to do administrative stuff, the lease, the basic administration. And he found that all of us are using laptops. And he's never used a computer, forget the laptop. I'm talking 10 years back, so he was 68. He got down, we are in the center of Delhi, right? He went to NIT, enrolled himself. He was taught by a 23-year-old teacher, sitting with 17 to 25-year-old people. He did a 3-month course and started using a laptop. So that's age is not to do with it. Experience has nothing to do with it. It is your attitude, right? So if you're a 20-year-old, you look at Oyo. The founder was 23-year-old, and you look at KFC. The founder was 65-year-old. Both of them are very, very awesome companies. So I think this debate itself is a non-starter.
More important is to identify the pain point. If there is a pain and you are accepting it or living through it, then the question doesn't arise. That spark won't start. Especially I want to relate it to life in Pauta. And logistics here is such a problem. Even if you go to the bus stand, you don't get the information of all the buses which are there. So the moment a person is able to identify that there's a pain point there and the technology is available, I think one of our students could think of coming up with something that could motivate them to make the solution.
Maybe one of the startup that starts on that
I
bus
am
management.
wishing for that.
I think that's a good point she says. So whatever the gap is there today in the industry it's a startup. So today there's an Ola and Uber, okay, but there's no real solution for a cab service in the industry. Okay? Ola and Uber you have to book it properly in immediate travel. But if you are probably going to travel on a leisure, your whole family has to travel. You can't book it the last moment and load out. So still there is a solution problem in terms of how the cabs are operated. Buses, for example, as is saying. The buses are also two parts. So the private buses and the government buses. Actually. Some of the government buses are automated or got online, but private buses are completely online. Hotel. We were discussing yesterday evening at the dinner time. I asked that how many properties are in this place. So he said 30 properties are there. I said 2 properties. Because we know 2 properties. They know 30 properties. So that itself is a gap. Actually. Yeah. So somebody can put these 30 properties together and say that this place has 30 properties, means this information is going to all across India. I'm coming from Bombay. I know there are 2 properties only. Even my driver knows there are 2 properties only.
So then where do we start to address this question? Like to actually do we go on the ground? But then again, how much ground can we cover for this one?
So, hotel is easy take. Cab is the easy one. I'm saying I'm giving the easy ones actually. There are complex things are also there, but the easy one, which is the low-hanging fruit, which you call it, these are the one which you can visibly see that in front.
I think this what's also happened over the last, I would say, half a decade more, and it's been happening for over a decade, but in the last 5 years, it's happened more. Uh, India is the burning place for entrepreneurs, right? People starting startups, and we claim that we have hundreds and thousands of startups. The data gets published on successful startups. There is no data on unsuccessful startups. So for every successful startup, there are millions of unsuccessful startups, and I'm saying millions. I'm not exaggerating. I think one message that I'll probably have with people who are sitting in this room, being an entrepreneur is amazing, but it's not easy. There is no work-life balance. So you've got to be ready for what you're doing. And yes, there could be exceptions that a 20-year-old can do find an amazing problem and solve it and be a very successful startup. But what is important is that you need to know your passion. Just because you've identified a problem, it's not necessary that you'll always find a solution to it. Or if you find a solution, it may scale. So there's a lot which goes into being, bringing an innovation commercially successful. If the innovation doesn't make money, there's nothing. You're not doing social service, right? So it has to be scalable. And before you jump onto an entrepreneurial track, work for someone, some good companies, some startups, go through that pain, and learn the perseverance part, learn the patience, learn the processes, challenges. And when you look for a startup story, have a 3-year plan minimum. And people used to say, what's your 5-year plan? We don't say anymore because I think the plans kind of change every 12 months. I don't think they even stay for 3 years. But at least have a 3-year plan. So a lot of issues that, where do we start? You start by identifying what's your, what do you call young boys and girls, mojo? Find your thing where you could probably be in that space for 10 or 15 years. And it will, there's a good saying that before you know what you're passionate about, do 20 things before you become passionate about something.
Yeah, so I'll add a perspective to it, right? As your question was, where do we start, right? And how much time? So it's a fairly long journey, right? So you need to set a goal for yourself as in what are you trying to achieve, right? And then I would say you then forget about time, as in how much time is it taking. You need to assess at various points if you're moving ahead, and if you're moving ahead in the right direction, right? I think that is where a lot of people lose the track. That they set a fairly ambitious goal, and they time limit themselves that okay, within X period of time I want to be there. What is more important is in terms of approach, at least that's my personal perspective as an individual, that you keep on checking if you're progressing. Right, so progress is more important than that timeline in which you are moving ahead. Because a lot of unforeseen things will come. When you're just starting up, it's very easy to get low-hanging fruits and you will see initial successes. Right, as you start scaling up, you will see that okay, people who you hired earlier, they might leave the company. Right? Your initial customers might not be happy. You might want to pivot your business idea. So there are a lot of things which go wrong in that journey. And I think that is where over the last 4-5 years since I'm starting up, I've seen a lot of people failing. That they start something and okay, within 6 months, I don't think it's working. But they never realized okay, they were in the right direction. If they would have waited, if they would have continued to persist.
So, but then how do we know we are in the right direction? There's no one to guide us. As an entrepreneur, it becomes very difficult to know. And then what you are saying, like self-regulation and self-challenge and self-correction, that becomes the hard part. So, can you give us some kind of like tips, advice?
So again, these are personal opinions. So my way of assessing it is
So we are three co-founders at Raffling, right? So we do fair assessment of each other, and we are fairly brutal and honest with each other. If we are doing reasonably fine in our respective functions, because three of us have different lines of work that we look after. So that is one. Second is you speak to your customer, you speak to your partners, and they will tell you if you are moving in the right direction. Because again, we track a lot of metrics within the company. Again, it's contextual, but we look at how many people are unhappy out of say 100 trips, and we look at various processes: pre-booking, during the booking, and the post-booking, then on-trip experience. And we try to understand if things are going down south or if they are moving in the right direction. So, depending on your business, you need to build some metrics which you can constantly track. Obviously, there are certain financial metrics like how much business are you doing, and how much money are you making. But beyond those financial metrics, there are certain other important metrics which will not appear in your P&L today, but they will impact your P&L at a later point in life, right? And end of the day, any business is about P&L effectively. So happiness also reflects in your future P&L. If your customers are happy, they will repeat and they'll give you business. Third, I think you should have decent friends around you who can tell you very honestly if you are doing fine or not. Because it's important to get unbiased opinion. Because again, as founders, we are always biased that okay, it's working, it's working, it's working. But you need to have certain friends who are brutally honest with you that okay, Chirag, you have spent 5 years on it. I don't think there's any progress.
They can debate and still be friends with you.
Yeah, I think
They
that
agree,
depends on your
they disagree, and
maturity.
then they agree to disagree.
It depends on your maturity.
I think in Charles, I'll give you an example. We have about 9 senior management, and each one of them has the right to tell not just the colleagues, but even to me as a founder that this is incorrect. And when you're sitting for brainstorming or when you're sitting for taking feedback, you should be open to criticism because most of the time the founding team thinks what they thought was the right thing to do. So that leverage and that openness has to come in as a culture where right at the and actually if you ask me, it is the front level, the ground people. They have the pulse of the market mostly than somebody sitting in a cabin. So if you listen to your team right at the front end, people who talk to the customers, people who talk to suppliers, they are the people who tell you whether you're in the right direction or wrong direction. So my advice to people who want to be entrepreneurs: one, you always are with the company you keep. Who are the people around you? If you have the right people who are having the ability to talk to you and explain to you that you're wrong, then things will not go on the south.
I'll go further. I take feedback on the customer actually. I meet the customer and I keep on. This trip also, I've been to Chandigarh, Ludhiana, Jalandhar, all these places and came here. And I met specifically the customers because customers are the best people to direct you where you are actually. They are the barometer of your business. And for us, we have some 65,000 customers all across India, and they tell us where we are actually. And every region in India is a diverse. Everywhere language differs, every 10 kilometers language differs, food differs. So the feedback of every region is very important for us. So that's our barometer. That's why we have been there for the last 40 years. And now for the last 15 years, I've taken over the reins of the company. So it is every time from my MD, current MD, he says that he's always been connected with customers. So that's the most important piece for us. And our people, we take care of the people. So that's the second piece which is very important. And these two people actually give you a feedback whether you are in the right direction or not. If you have a lot of attrition, you are not in the right direction.
And can you also shed some light on this?
So I have some point to make here. In fact, because I see the students and I also see, because being entrepreneurship startup, that maybe the students here emerge or create a startup. So I also feel that this is one place wherein they can bond and create those friends. The friends that you talk, maybe you can, if you find people of your interest, of your enthusiasm, this could be one of the right places wherein you could create ideas and grow. Because it is not very easy to find those reliable friends, and the friends whom you can, and these are our students who are just joined. So the 2 years they spend together, they can share ideas, and they are in the business school. So this could be one founding space wherein they could create that kind of an environment.
One more idea that I got was like from Manoj sir's this. So I was looking at the podcast, and there were many innovative ideas and many suggestions and everything. So can you highlight about the podcast a bit?
Which specific point?
So in Ria Travels, on your LinkedIn, you have a podcast, and within that, it's called some skill. I don't exactly remember, but some skill related to the aspect of it.
So actually, the problem, one of the things I don't know whether I can relate to the podcast or not. One of the challenges for our industry is the skill and the manpower. And so, we have a big challenge in terms of how we get the people. I'm talking about the junior level and entry level people. And training is very important, and we keep on training them. We take people in, and we keep on training. And managing them is the most difficult part because churning is very fast. Okay, not sure. We're not able to probably connect well with the current, blend of people who are entering the industry. Probably the other industry is much more lucrative. That's why they are jumping so fast out of the industry. Plus, this industry is on a turning point in terms of it's getting completely automated. Okay, so the people who are existing in the industry are probably getting phased out, and the newer people are not keen on taking probably. Okay, because if everything is automated, what is left for them to do? Okay, they learn these things in probably 3 months, 6 months time, and then they want to just get into something new probably. So people is a big problem in our industry today, and one of the things we are trying to do is to skill development for the people. Okay, and we have an institute also in our own premise where we teach around at least every year 100 students to teach specific skill or function. So probably some we can absorb also, and some we can give to the industry also.
So, like Manoj has shared, I think it's not so much the number of manpower, but it is the skilled manpower. It's where industry is really looking forward to, and we're very happy that I'm taking this initiative on tourism and travel business that you are all part of. I'll tell you that this industry is the largest industry in the world. It is the largest employer of the world, and it's at an inflection point where everything is driving digital. So instead of the mundane activities or the processes that automatically solve themselves, the issue is on analytical skills, the issues on digitization, that the issues are on change management, digital transformation. So if any of you really want to build a career in travel and hospitality or tourism business, you should look forward to engaging yourself very, very meaningfully on how digital transformation happens. What are the analytical and BI skills that you need to bring in? The digital marketing is going really, really great because and obviously AI is driving, machine learning is driving a whole lot of this and becoming again automated. But you still need to know the pulse. And I think IIM is the best place for you guys to kind of acquire those skills. And if you're able to acquire those skills, you will have some very meaningful role. In terms of opportunity, I think the whole industry is going to go through change. It's going to need change managers. It is going to need, digital transformation managers. It's going to need product managers. So there is no limit. I can tell you for sure. So it's a very promising industry. But your own learning skill and also the enthusiasm to be in part of this industry will determine your success in the industry.
I have a slightly different perspective which adds to your discussion also. That we being in Himachal, we have all the things like the apple picking tools or the wine, which is there in the other countries, which is not in India and it is in Himachal. And there is a possibility that our students can also look at creating those tools because there is. I feel in terms of exposure and in terms of creativity, in terms of Himachal, there is a lot that can be done. So they can come up with all these things also, which can be aligned, and then the fact that digitalization is there, so they become the cusp wherein they can bring both the things together. So they know this business and they know this digitization, and then they can go from there. So I think that those are also the areas wherein our students can actually look at.
Yeah, absolutely. I think just to add one more point, supply chain management is the future of this industry. So if you know how the sourcing happens, how digitally this sourcing can happen, and it's a global scale. There is absolutely no limit in what, just like you said, while this could be some niche tours, but to make these tours and make them acquire customers digitally is no brainer anymore. So, but nobody's doing it for now, right? So opportunity could be, you could identify an opportunity and see where you want to go with that. What is the size? Don't go by what the size of current is. It's a very example that I've always learned when I was a youngster. There's a saying going that a shoe company sent a sales manager to Africa, and said, look at what is the potential. He came back and said, hey, nobody wears shoes, so there's no potential. Another sales manager was sent 6 months later. He said, wow, we should build in 3 factories there because nobody wears shoes. We'll make everybody wear shoes. So it's, like I said, it's always the attitude, it's the way you look at a problem, it's the way you look at the future defines where you end up actually. So that's.
So I have another direction to add to it because the question was fairly open-ended, right? So from a student's perspective, and as you think about entrepreneurship, so travel is a very easy industry to start a venture in. You don't need much capital, you don't need much resources. You can become a travel agent right after this discussion. Literally, you need to register on one of the many platforms. You will see B2B pricing, and you can sell it to your friends, family, and that's how you start a travel agency. The problem here is that many people fall for such short-term money, and they get content with it because for first couple of years you will see that your travel agency is going or your B2B operations are going. But where people miss out the bigger picture is they don't think bigger, and specifically for this classroom, because all of you have cleared exams, right, which would sort of put you in the top 5-10% of the country in terms of your aptitude. If you think ambitiously, this is an industry where if you want to build a big venture, it's open. It's an open market. A lot of people just who have the capability, who have intellect, who have resources, they fall for short-term outcomes, and that is where they end their journey from an entrepreneur's perspective. There is always a potential to build a much bigger enterprise. For example, when we started the company, we got a lot of opportunities. We are a B2B company, so we sell to travel agents, but we got opportunities where we could make money directly from the customer, and we could have made good money, 1 lakh, 1.5 lakh rupees on a transaction. But we stuck to our principle that we will not get into it. Now, if we start getting into that 1.5 lakh, which seems lucrative in one transaction, it's a 10-minute thing. Then you stop seeing the bigger picture because when the customer will go on the ground, they will bother you more than the travel agent, which is what you originally set out the business for. So in travel specifically, if any of you is interested in starting a venture, this is one pitfall which you should try to avoid. You will see short-term success. But if you want to build a big enterprise, stay focused on it and not fall for it.
Actually, looking at the industry, I had one question. So there's something called as augmented reality, but many of the travel and tourism they have not implemented it yet. So can you just shed a light why is it not being implemented, or what is the potential within that?
See, again, people have a lot of misconception about augmented reality. So some people think that it can replace actual travel. But if you use augmented reality to enable travel, because if you're physically traveling to somewhere, that's obviously a very different experience compared to the rest of VR equipments and AR equipments. Right? So eventually, an individual will want to travel physically. A lot of people, what they tried to do, specifically during COVID, they tried to build models to replace actual travel. Uh, and that is unlikely to, that is not going to happen. Right? Not even unlikely, that is not going to happen. If you want to travel, you will want to travel. But yes, there is a lot of scope for actually augmented reality ventures to enable travel industry. And like my last point, it will require patient capital because augmented reality needs to build an infrastructure for the entire travel industry. To build one AR video of a hotel itself, it takes a couple of days. First to shoot the video, then to edit the video, then to stitch everything together. Right? So if we want to use AR in a big way, even for one destination, it will take years if we don't invest very actively. Like have 50 people cover the ground in one day, and they should do that for probably 2 weeks, 3 weeks at a go, and then they can build one destination. But then that will be expensive. So again, the question becomes to you as an entrepreneur whether you want to start a travel agency or you want to start an augmented reality startup. Travel agency is more lucrative in the short term. You will make money. Augmented reality startup will require your patience. It will require patient capital. It will require investments. So it's always a choice. I think it has a lot of scope if used in conjunction with the real physical travel.
I'll add to that. So AR is probably will be used more for the demonstration or the probably the pre-visit. Travel is all about experience. Today we could have done this online, correct? But we traveled. Even I wanted to see Mathura. So we could have done through the videos and all. But travel is all about experience. So AR will be there probably, but it will be more from the demonstration or I want to see this destination at a particular. There are today travel planners are there who want to show the HNIs, the high network individuals. Pre-visit, before the visit, they want to show the certain places where they want to visit, what are the services they could render. All that can be probably a part of AI, or the augmented reality later on. But travel or visit, definitely that has to be a physical way. I don't think so that will change from the to that way.
Well, my take on augmented reality is that it is, with respect to travel, at least a decade away. Because we're not even used to doing basic things online as yet. So look at the data where if you want to travel overseas, how many people book their tours or packages online is itself will tell you that we're not even, kind of self-independent in making our own bookings, right? So as a popular thing saying that India searches online and books offline, right? So that's the way it is today. So augmented reality is, it's a dream. Let's just leave it at that. Second, like Chirag mentioned, I think it involves huge amount of costs inputs. The infrastructure is not ready at all, and I think it would need millions and billions of dollars to create the kind of content, and it's a long tail business for as far as the travel is concerned. And on the other side, travel is experience. And you can't have an experience sitting on a beach for a Miami beach, right? You can't be sitting here and say, well, I have a beautiful Miami beach displayed in front of me wearing a set of goggles. What I will feel when I'm actually on a Miami beach. So I don't think that is ever getting replaced at all. Unless there is obviously COVID restrictions and we can't fly. then it's a different story.
I disagree. Yeah. People, in India, people are looking at booking online. So be careful. We have to really look at the reality. I think all the fellows are looking at booking online.
I mean, it's a strange situation to share that Panta bus station does not have the details of all the buses which come. That is not available. So we have places. I think there's a lot that can be done in those places. There is a lot of scope and lot of things to become online. That was being in Delhi. I never realized that I could be in a place which didn't have that information. So we go to smaller places in different cities of Himachal and maybe in other states as well. And there's a lot of information which, or a lot of technology input that is required, and a lot of gap, even whether it is from the students or somewhere. And,
Actually, there are a lot of questions to ask, but I think like we are running out of time, and we need to also address questions from audience. So we are open for discussion.
Hello. My name is Rohit Sharma, and I have two questions to ask. And the first question is for KD sir. As he has mentioned that tourism industry is the largest industry or the one of the largest industry in the world. But if I talk about especially in India, it is not growing as fast as it should. As we are expecting this year also 13.47% of growth in tourism sector. So somewhere, my question is, where and why it is not becoming growing faster as it should? And my another question to all the panelists is that especially if we talk about India, it's very hard to change the mentality of the people. So as a entrepreneur or as in the tourism industry, how you have seen that people are changing or how tourism industry is implementing or how it is finding difficult to change the mentality of the people.
Be specific about that.
As the earlier discussion was going on, as ladies had mentioned, people are not even taking the tour packages. For example, if I want to, if I go to suppose make my trip and want to go somewhere travel abroad, when I go to that and click on the tour packages, they are for a middle class people, it's quite hard. So we think, look, let's take a flight, go there, and we will explore their places. We search on the Google and find out these are the places to visit. We'll book a hotel. Sometimes it might be cheaper than what I am getting in the Make My Trip or somewhere. So this kind of mentality, how we are finding it difficult or how it is being difficult to change. And one more thing that like in the the rural areas or in the suburban areas, there also it's not always they want to go and see the place. I suppose they want to go to hotel and then see whether it is good or not. So though our generation is just go online and check. So how difficult it is to tackle that population on the
So that's too many questions. Let us break them down one by one. So, see, when you talk about percentages, always remember what is the denominator. So when you say 13.5%, 13.5% of what? So when you look at that number, it's amazingly large. When you look at domestic travelers in India, when you say there are 14% more people traveling on air, that's few hundred crores, right? So just don't say 13.5% is a very small number. 13.5% is actually one of the largest numbers that you'll find globally for travel. So India is one of the fastest growing travel, economy, right? Second, when you look at the data published, and again, this would get into segments like domestic travel and religious travel and outbound travel. So probably the discussion will really need a different, session altogether. But just from the outbound side, there are 12 lakh passports being issued every month in India. right? And we have 1.4 billion people, right? So I think the scale and the growth is only limited by our imagination. There is no barriers to growth. Yes, there are things like air seats, the number of air seats or connectivity, the number of rooms available in a particular destination. So all those things obviously factors come in. But 3.5% is a very, very healthy growth. Majority of the economies don't grow that in terms of the goods of business. So I hope that answered your question on the growth side. The second question on how difficult it is to change. I'm into, we are into B2B business. We really don't want people to go and book an OTA, right? It's against the business model of ours. So just to introduce Travel Boost to all of you, we are the only online B2B DMC in the whole world. So which means we sell to travel agents, to our operators. We also sell to OTAs, right? So if you're a mom and pop show, or if you're an SME, or if you're an MSME, or if you're a regional operator or a global operator, so you name the top brands in the world, we are the last mile supply for them. And because we are digital, we're able to go to 72 different nationalities in the world, right? And I haven't even listed, let's say, states, but I have business from states. I've probably been to Russia once, but I have a lot of Russian businesses coming. So the digital transformation of acquisition of business is mind blowing. So it's the supply at the end which is obviously contributing to the whole thing. And your tier 2, tier 3 argument is very, very valid. And there is a trust deficit when you're going to an OTA. Even in your generation, when you go and you say, okay, I want to go on a certain OTA and make a booking, you are in your back of the mind not sure whether my booking will be confirmed. So what is happening? And if it's a domestic travel, like you want to go to Shimla, you will take that chance. So you look at the OTA pattern, the online bookings of airline is probably 80% on OTAs. Or 70% on OTAs. I think Manoj will be able to give a much better number or accurate figure on that. But that's what has completely changed. Domestic hotel bookings, right? That's easier to convert. But as soon as you want to go to a place where you're not very familiar with, right? You don't want to take a chance. You want to go to a consultant or somebody whom you could call if you are stuck. So that's when I said people in India today, and I would probably stick out my neck again and say over 70% of the business or more is actually searched online or booked offline. And it's good that way because what we and Chirag are trying to do in our respective companies are to assist this, SMEs and MSMEs and mom and pop shows to be able to fight OTAs and retain their customers because these customers were with them. Their fathers, their grandfathers, their uncles have always booked with our travel agent who's next door. It's like you don't, probably if you have, let's say, a grocery store right down in your colony, you trust that grocery store guy more than what you would probably go to a department store, right? So that's the context when you see a travel agent, and I think it is here to stay. We would love it to stay that way. People should travel agents and trust them. So the trust deficit with overseas booking or a high value transaction, for example. So if you want to buy a diamond, yes, there are diamonds you bought online, but how would you like to buy a diamond necklace? Would you want to go to a Tanishq or a store of diamonds and then buy, or do you want to just go click and say, okay, even if it is a returnable policy and all of that, of course, that business is changing. But yeah, we're on that curve, and the time will be there.
So I'll start with the specific problem of booking not happening. There are a lot of bookings that perceptions are wrong. I am not agree with really saying that bookings are not happening. There are a lot of bookings are happening directly. The vendors or principals are taking direct bookings also. Okay. Certain bookings are still coming from the tier 2, tier 3 from us, to us actually. That's largely because of the payment problem. The high ticket. The low ticket is not coming to us. The high tickets are, they're not confident of putting a card or anything onto that. That's why they're dependent on somebody locally who can convert cash later. So That's why they're not dependent on these OTAs or anybody. So there are multiple OTAs actually, not just on the travel side. There are on the consumer side also there are OTAs, but they will not depend on these OTAs because of the large ticket value. And that's what we found because these travel agents are located all across India. We know that how they get the business. Certain tickets they get it, certain value or certain products they get it, certain products they don't get it. So that's definitely get booked online. So, for example, I'll tell you domestic. Domestic tickets are actually gone largely on OTA or directly to the airlines. So that's because of the value is small. Actually. But if you consider international air ticket, it definitely goes to a travel agent because that requires a bit of workaround. There's a visa required, there's a hotel required, there's a insurance, foreign exchange. There's a lot of workaround on that. So that's a large, big decision, big ticket value. Actually. Hope that answers.
Hello sir, my name is Ishan Jain, and it's an open-ended question. It's not related to any firm. So you see that the government is making a lot of capital investment on infrastructure development. So you see for logistical movement, also for roadways. You see, for example, I'll just quote an example. So the highways being constructed, you can go from Delhi to Bombay in 9 to 10 hours by car. So 12 hours. So you take this as a threat or an opportunity. And if it is an opportunity, how do you think you can capitalize on it?
Um, so see, practically, government is not trying to eat anyone's business, right? They are making travel simpler by reducing friction or by reducing. So flights, for example, they cut down the time of trains by many hours, and in some cases by days. They haven't taken away business from trains. Trains still run at full capacity. You pick up nearly any connection. So whatever infrastructural development happens, eventually that percolates to the end customer and people start using it. So it's a positive development only because I believe now this is an example which you're taking of Delhi, Mumbai. I'm sure now many hotels will come up because people might not want to might not want to do a 10 hour drive non-stop drive. Some people might want to stay for a night after 4 5 hours of drive. So it's an opportunity for hoteliers to find places which are tourist worthy and they can build an entire ecosystem around it, which is what happens with midways or dhabas along any highway. So because there is a road connectivity, new businesses are coming up. So I think it's
I'll add to this. Okay, so Goa had one airport. Okay, now there are two airports. What has really changed? The flights are still going through. Now, to add to that, now we have Bombay to Goa. There's a Vande Bharat train. If you check online, it's not available next 3 months. So I see this as an opportunity. So governments are building next, 3 to 4 years. You'll see 100 airports coming in, highways getting built up. So the road infrastructure will improve. That buses will improve. Buses will improve. The better buses will operate on that. So you have more tourism. Okay, more places will get connected. As Chirag said, hotels, cafes, alongside the roads, okay, that will get built up. So it's all part of the tourism ecosystem actually. Okay, this will improve the opportunities for all of you sitting here.
So single answer opportunity and wherever you put infrastructure, it increases the size of the market. So the pie can belong to anyone, or whether it's hotels or transport. So if you are able to build a highway which can take you to Bombay, a lot of us would like to drive to Bombay, but today we know there are not enough good highways or there are no stops on the way. You look at the Western world, the whole hospitality industry is surviving on motels, right, alongside the highways. So whether it's highways, whether it's airports, whether it's trains, these are means of commuting from one place to the other. And along the side, the economy grows wherever the highway goes or wherever the infrastructure comes. Whether it's the airports, you look at the number of airplanes ordered by India. So collectively, in operated airlines. So, so it's definitely an opportunity.
Thank you, sir.
So, hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Shubhit Deoria, and I have actually two questions. My first question is, in the light of recent global events like pandemic, sorry, am I audible? So, in the light of recent global events like pandemic, how the tourism industry is adapting to the changing customer behaviors and their expectation? And my second question is to specifically to the Chirag sir. And the question is, how do travel plan address the sustainability aspect of the tourism industry and encouraging environmentally practice uh, among your users? So,
Okay, so let's start with the second one because that is specifically directed at me. See, I'll be very honest. I don't. So, if you try to understand our business model better, right? So we are trying to make the entire process of doing a transaction between an end customer and there's travel agent in between. There are a couple of more entities in between, and then there would be airlines and hotels and cab operators. So our thought process is to make this entire process efficient. Efficient in the sense speed of communication flow that should increase. Quality of communication should improve. Communication is in terms of content, is in terms of live availability, for example, the right pricing, for example. And this is nearly everything is nearly digital. One of your colleagues has interned with us. So we are in the process of digitizing this entire value chain, the supply chain, starting from the hotel or the airline or the cab, which is the inventory owner, to the end customer. Today the problem is, like AD sir also talked about, and Priya does something very similar. We are all trying to adapt to the changing trends. Changing trends is, for example, if you speak to a 20, 25-year-old travel agent, as an age 20, 25-year age travel agent, versus a 50-year-old travel agent, you will see a very different behavior in terms of how they are booking tickets for them or how they are booking hotels for them. And at least in my biased worldview, people who are young, energetic, and adapting to these changing technologies, they are doing fairly better in terms of new customer acquisition. So till 8 years back, 2015, when I first started working in a travel company, so I used to do everything online because I had time. I enjoyed the process of booking everything online. But at the same time, there was some fear in terms of I'm putting in my credit card details at places. And I remember my last planned trip where I booked everything myself was to Spain back in 2015. So I had to take a ferry from Barcelona to Ibiza. Honestly, there was not a single website in English language where I could book it. So I had to translate the web page into English and then I paid for it because it was important for me. Flight was pretty expensive for that specific route. After that, I switched to a travel agent primarily because of my exposure to how much value a travel agent can add. So I understood that. And then over a period of time, as you become short of time in hand, like because you have to do multiple things like manage your personal life, work life. So you start realizing that the joy of booking everything yourself and that process, uh, saving money and everything becomes secondary. What you want to save upon is time so that you can probably work more at office so you can spend more time with your friends. So in last 8 years, I've never booked anything myself, as in by going monthly. It's primarily because of my exposure to the industry. Plus, I've also switched a lot of my friends who are equally well educated as me, who are traveling. So that is one part, right? So we are trying to understand this industry trend, as in how is the customer changing, and it is something which
Shubhajit.
this colleague of yours also. Go ahead. So So he was also asking, right? So we try to understand how is the customer behavior changing. Obviously, people are booking online, tickets are getting booked online. So we try to understand that, but at the same time, you need to realize that even the leading online travel agents, the biggest of companies, right? They are also having an offline supply chain at the back end for many of their products. The biggest of OTAs buy from us or ADSer or from other players, some of them are completely offline. Right, so on the face of it, you will see that okay, it's an online process, XYZ company, we manage to push book here. But the reality is far from it. It is a really complex sequence of events that happen at the back. As a company, we are trying to understand this user behavior. Now, today you are comfortable with going to the destination and then booking hotel once you land up there. But once you get married, once you have kids, your ability to take risk changes. Right? So we need to understand which is forming the majority of the customer base. So people like you are not the majority of the customers in India. Right? And we as a company, we are trying to build a product for the majority of customers in India. But at the same time, we are seeing that how is the user behavior changing. From sustainability perspective specifically, I think beyond digitization, there is nothing more that we can do. You can say that we are eliminating paper and that is our bit to saving environment, practically if you look at it. But I'm not sure as in what's the quantum of saving from it. But yes, obviously on our system, till the end customer, everything is paperless, right? So even the hotel vouchers, a travel agent doesn't need to print it to the customers. Travel agent can share the link, which is widely good, and they can show it at the immigration counter or wherever at the hotel counter. So we have solved that entire journey. So once the customer gets a specific code, they can see all their vouchers, the itinerary, driver number, everything. So I think removing paper is sustainability, but yeah, I'll be very honest.
I'll just add to that what he said. It's right. Exactly, this is only paper what we can remove from the sustainability point of view. And others, I think airline can contribute. I think they are getting some newer, better aircraft, which is a less, more fuel efficient and capacity all that. So they can be more contributed to that compared to us. We can just remove the paper. Okay. From the first, I think, what was the first question you asked? COVID. Okay. Post-COVID. Post-COVID, I think so. One of the things, what I said earlier, also the automation. I think automation has really changed for us. Personally, if you ask us, a lot of automation has brought in, and what used to happen manually has now people have started accepting it. Change, and they have started taking it automation. The tools have been accepted. People started using that. Yeah, everything has become expensive.
So we are actually running out of time. So a final question from audience.
So this question is on the basis of the statement that KD sir made. So we said that augmented reality is a future thing. So aren't we taking a myopic view? Do you think that overlooking such innovations would result in some sort of risk? For example, let's say Blockbuster had the same view. They were not ready to innovate when Netflix actually went to them and asked them, we are going to shift to something of the sort. They thought that this is what is right at the very beginning. So if we are going to go by what is right at the very beginning, so when exactly is the right time to move ahead with an innovation? So
again, actually, what we are talking about here is travel is what experience is. So Netflix and that is a different problem to compare to travel. Travel is about experience. We want to really change that with a non-real. That's what the question is. Correct? Augmented reality is actually you are not going to that place and not experiencing that. But travel is all about experience. With that change, it's a metaverse. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. At least till the time I'm there, I'm not wanting to do that.
And just to add that, I didn't say that we are against AR at all. We're not even saying that it's not going to happen. What we're saying is that augmented reality, the use case in travel would be visiting or pre-selection of your holidays. It won't replace a holiday, one. Second, the view that I have on AR is that we are not ready. It is, we're talking about it, it's there, it's going to happen, it's in developing stage. There is always a curve. So we are way ahead of our time. AR will come, it will happen, but it won't replace everything. It will assist in experience of by the time you're doing your selection or process of buying. That is where AR will play a role. So we're not at all taking a bad view. All the new technologies have always disrupted things or assisted, and like I said, it's to build efficiency, right? So AR will definitely build efficiency in this whole process of experience of a customer who's buying a travel experience, right? So we're definitely not ruling out at all on AR. We're just saying that it's not yet there because we have to. It's like when we moved from those those phones. If any of you have seen a dial phone, yeah. So from there to pagers, it took us 100 years or more. From pagers to mobile, Western world took 15 years, India took 3. Right? So what happens, with innovations is that wherever it gets innovated, it gets implemented faster because there's always the first triers, the first 15-20% who will try a new thing, like electric cars. Electric car is available for how many years? We are now buying it. Right? And it is still nowhere close to the number of cars that we buy on petrol and diesel. So yes, there is absolutely no myopic view. We're not absolutely ruling this out. We're just saying that it's too early. It will happen, but it'll take time. We don't have the infrastructure in place.
Since we are running out of time, no more questions. But I'm pretty sure you must have many doubts. So you can just give all your doubts to Atithya, and a member can reach out to the panel and they can solve it online, like via mail or something. So with this, I declare this panel discussion complete. Thank you, sir, for so much insightful vision, peek into the future. Thank you, KD sir. Thank you, Chirag sir. Thank you, Manu sir. Thank you, ma'am. So let's take a break, and afterwards, you guys can join for the panel too. Okay? Thank you so much.
To come on stage and distribute the mementos for our esteemed guests. Guys, a huge round of applause for the panelists. That was a great discussion. With us. Thank you, ma'am. So that is indeed an enlightening discussion. We all had the opportunity to view their views on entrepreneurship and tourism industry. I hope that some of you sitting out there will definitely push yourself and go chase and pursue the challenges out there and be a successful entrepreneurs. I would now like to thank Harshit Sawant for being the moderator of today's discussion. Let's give a big round of applause, guys. I'd also like to thank our esteemed panelists, Mr. Chirag Agarwal, Mr. Manoj Samuel, Mr. Kanwardeep Singh, and Dr. Mohita ma'am for their brilliant ideas and share of thought. I would also like to extend my thanks to faculty members and all the members who have gathered here. I would also extend my thanks to Team Atithya for conducting this brilliant lecture. I'd also extend my thanks to Media Set for being there and live streaming the event. Thank you. Have a nice day. I request the students to be seated while the panelists leave.
Likewise.
and I'm sitting here in Mumbai. My share service center is in Mumbai. So what happens is the mobile customer has made the payment online, and now I have to deliver let's say tickets or a package to that customer. Right? The customer is sitting in the shop. He's saying, I have made the online transfer. We have a centralized accounting share services team. So through the robotics sitting out of Mumbai, we actually also. So what we have effectively done is we have made the whole process faster. The customer sitting in my Bhopal shop gets to know immediately. My employee sitting in Bhopal gets to know immediately, and he or she can execute the transaction instantly. So that's a real-time thing that we have done. So these are some of the things that we have. We from finance has enabled the business side of it to make sure that we navigate through this changes in the travel and tourism industry. That was the technology part. Let me talk about the margin part. COVID came and traveling tourism is a very it just influence the market by diluting the margins and etc. So as a finance professional in the organization, the job is always to have a margin management as a portfolio, margin management as a cost reduction, right? Because sales is something which you can't control. Sales is the external thing, but what you can control is your margin management and the cost side of it. So a lot was done in terms of the cost management. We have now started moving from a fixed cost to a variable cost. All of you would have studied in your curriculum the benefit of going variable rather than fixed, because when things are fixed in nature and if you have a challenge in your top line and margin, obviously your losses are, which is where in terms of our distribution we have moved to that particular thing. We integrated a lot of departments in a manner that we to derive the synergies. So, for example, two people doing same work in two different organizations within the group. We have a group and we have many companies, so we integrated the roles. And that doesn't mean that we ask the other person to go. We actually deploy that person in the other roles that we can. So this is how we manage the the cost. Marketing, much spoken about subject since yesterday. Nowadays when we were doing, and we have an expert here, I don't want to steal thunder from him, but in terms of the marketing, the digital journey in the marketing area now enables us to measure the effectiveness of marketing. You can very well find out how much are the clicks, who all have booked. It's so tangible, it's so measurable. So that brings a lot of commitment to the department, saying that, oh, okay, I'm spending 100 rupees on digital, and therefore this is the kind of lead, or these are the kind of clicks, or these are the kind of views that I have on my website. So we have put everything under a measurable thing. You have to count, you have to measure. So I think this is something which is very important to manage the cost part of it. Very quickly, I move on to the third topic of working capital management. Working capital management, when the COVID thing happened, obviously people thought that what's going to happen on travel. Bankers found this very challenging to fund. So what we did, we looked inside our company. We started working on reducing the credit terms with the customers, so the collection comes faster, the DSO reduces. We renegotiated terms with vendors so that the payable amount is higher. I mean, the payable days are higher, and that's how we managed to manage our working capital. Another very interesting tool that we started using is the use of credit card. I'm sure most of you use the credit card. Why do we use the credit card? Anybody?
Emergencies.
Sorry?
Emergencies.
Yeah, right. Emergency, and then there is a credit period. The name itself says credit card is like you get a credit period, right? And obviously there are reward points. So we use this tool very effectively wherever we had a payable which was otherwise statutorily payable in 7 days time. We started making those payments through card. So what happens is we get anywhere between 20 to 35 days of credit period, right? So one side we collect, and the other side I pay a little later. Good, right? Good for the working capital point of view. This is something which we did, and that was on the working capital side. Fourth one is the risk management. In travel and tourism, risk management is very, very important. And when I say risk, what are the risks? Risk of fraud, risk of cybercrime, risk of customer going bankrupt, risk of some regulatory body putting fine on us, saying that you have not followed that. So the whole risk management in terms of the controls and all those things. And the last one, which is a very new topic, is ESG. A lot of you would have heard about ESG. What is the full form of ESG, if I may ask?
Environment, social.
Absolutely. Environment, social, and governance. And the SEBI, which is the controller of stock market in India, has mandated from financial year 22-23, the top 1,000 listed companies need to report in their annual report the report on sustainability, which is called BR, Business Reporting, Sustainable Reporting, BRSR. This was applicable to us. This actually talks about what kind of impact have you made on environment, right? In terms of the carbon emission and what all electricity you use. This is a new norm. This is the change that has come in travel. Travel industry, they are now, the travel industry is voluntarily become very responsible in terms of airline carbon emission and all those things. And now there are these reporting norms. So for the year 22-23, we started reporting this, in terms of what is the carbon emission and all those things. That's a new development. And the last one that I want to talk about is the compliance. There has been in this country, the compliance overdrive is happening, and I'm sure you would have read and you would have experienced in some form or the other. The laws in the general interest are becoming very, very stringent. So I think the role of finance when this change is happening, and there were a lot of regulations that were introduced which affects the travel and tourism. Many of you would have heard about the TCS rule of 5% and 20%, which was a big debate happening in media just few days back. Then there were other TDS provision. So now as a finance to make sure that we implement all those things, we made certain changes, we made representation with government, whatever changes that we wanted. So I think these are some of the things that we have done over last several years in terms of how to adopt to a changing travel industry. And I'll be happy to take any kind of questions, but let the whole panel discussion get over maybe at the end. We can do that. Thank you.
That's very enlightening, sir. Sir, I would like to redirect this question to you. What kind of changes have you observed in the industry post-COVID, as sir talked about COVID? What kind of changes do you think the industry has been hit by, and how has Kinata managed to adapt to those particular changes and stay competitive in the industry?
Hello. Yeah, good evening, and glad to be here. From Dinata perspective, I think COVID was a very difficult period. And that's because Dinata is part of Emirates Group. So we had to make a lot of changes in different ways across the group, whether it was Emirates Airlines, Dinata Catering, Dinata Cargo, or Dinata Travel Group. And I can give endless number of examples, but the most interesting example in which I use in various forums is that during COVID we had a cost reduction initiative which we ran across the group. And one of the interesting things which we adopted, had to change, was to give plastic glasses for wine in the Emirates flight, economy class, instead of a wine glass. And even though we were able to save a lot of costs, but it impacted our customer satisfaction. And there was a lot of debate within Emirates that whether we should do it or we should not do it. And in the end, we decided, okay, we would bring back the wine glasses. But it's just to give you an idea that even a small thing during COVID period was reviewed, and it impacted either the company or the customer. Apart from that, there was a lot of reduction in terms of overall usage of our aircrafts. So we removed seats from a lot of our aircrafts and use it as charter flights or cargo flights. And that's how we were able to break even. Apart from that, I think during COVID, we became more wiser, looking at our process efficiencies, looking at various workarounds where we could do more work with less resources and more effectively. And there was also a whole initiative around walking through all processes in the organization and looking at what is your value added activities, what are your non-value added activities, and what are your value added activities. And then all the non-value added activities were removed. And there are a number of things which, in benefit of time, I don't want to get into. But something as simple as over-servicing, we never noticed that over-servicing was taking a lot of our productivity. So over-servicing is when I'm promising my customer that turnaround time is 4 days, but I am pushing my team to get everything done within 24 hours, and we do it within 24 hours. So customer is happy, it's customer delight, but I have to have more resources to manage that turnaround of 1 day. And then there were discussions around, okay, why do you want to do it in 1 day when the turnaround time is 4 days? And customer is fine with that. And then we found that across the group, we have been doing that for years. So there were a lot of different insights, different way to processes, systems, technology, and our practices, which came under radar, and we were able to make a lot of changes. And I think in hindsight, when we look back, I think it brought us a lot of improvements and also a lot of realization in terms of how our business can be managed. So that's what I can share about it.
Thank you so much, sir. Manoj sir, one thing that impressed my mind is, although marketing is as mainstream as anything can be, but since we are in corporate and corporate marketing is a bit different from how we actually market things, our products. How would you see these changes from your perspective, and how your marketing strategies have been affected due to the COVID striking the market?
Hi, Abhishek. Hi, everyone. Hello. I work for FCM. It's a global TMC. So COVID was unprecedented times. We haven't seen anything like that. That was a tough phase, and the way we looked at it was that this is a problem, but it is also an opportunity to look at things differently. So earlier we went into hibernation. We relooked at the way we did business. There were a lot of discussions, a lot of insights which came through. Things were developing and evolving on the go every day. So we had a dedicated team. Leaders were all there together trying to figure out the best way forward. There were a lot of conversations which was happening with the customers also, end customers. Business was not happening, but there were conversations happening. What we did was that there was obviously a streamlining of people, of processes and all as we moved forward. And as part of that, there was increased collaboration. So we had teams in USA, in Australia, in London, in India, working together. So this was one of the things which, because of COVID, there was more activity around this. There were more learnings, and thankfully, because of that, each of the regions individually benefited, while together we were able to bring more value. The other thing which happened and which Brijesh already shared, gave a glimpse, was about marketing, digital marketing specifically. So pre-COVID, possibly there were other medias also which were used, and there's a famous saying that we know advertising and media money works, but we don't know which half works. But post-COVID, and especially with focus on digital marketing and automation, there has been a kind of a renewed focus on generating leads, creating a funnel, and you know how it actually galvanizes on ground the team, the sales team into action, and in measuring ROI for each of the activity or each of the stuff you do on the digital space. So that was a big thing. Everything goes into a CRM or Salesforce. All the campaigns are managed through Eloqua. Now these are all automation. These are all tools which we use, which we started using post-COVID in India, and the entire team, the FCM in India is seeing the benefit of that. Was great from a marketing piece. Also, as we came out of this COVID phase and us, there were more activities happening on ground. There was also a conversation which was happening with end consumers, and they spoke about sustainability. They spoke about duty of care. Now, these were things which need to be addressed when we do any kind of travel. So that all messages got passed on with the team and sustainability and how it can be converted into action. Those points were discussed. And finally, as we came out, India emerged stronger because of the way we are as a resilient country. So once we came out of this, there were conversations around how best we can utilize this phase of coming out. Economy is going stronger, and the team is ready to capitalize on that. And I think this is the best phase for all of you also who are passing out in the process of going out into the industry, because I don't think any other G20 country is growing the way India is going to grow. This is the decade of India.
So you mentioned collaborations, and obviously collaboration is often the key to success in any industry, obviously. So I would ask this question to all of you, and I would expect an answer from any of you. Can you share any examples of successful collaborations that may have contributed to the growth and resilience in the industry? Maybe particularly to your field, or an example that you might know that will enlighten the students here.
So one of the examples that I can think of is during COVID, I think everyone had to change their business model overnight. And for example, a normal travel agent moved from travel bookings to running charters, and they were looking for charter flights. And in order to get the charter flights, they would actually reach out to their competitors and other people with whom they have never dealt with, and collaborate with them on profit sharing agreements. And that happened successfully. So a lot of agents and companies got together to make the new model work when COVID happened. And that has resulted in better engagement between the industry players, more collaborations, and better relationships. So one thing that happened that time is no one said no to anyone. That okay, I don't want to do this because you're my competitor. I don't want to do this because you did something like this with me in the past. I think everyone worked with each other, and overall, as an industry, I think there was a lot of cooperation and collaboration which was visible.
In our case, we used help and collaborated with our teams from Australia for content. We used the team from Canada and USA when it comes to SEO, and help with SEM, search engine marketing. SEO is search engine optimization, but generally trying to ensure that we have a very effective marketing program, and that happened because of the collaboration which happened within the teams who were actually not working so closely pre-COVID.
Right. So there was also mention of sustainability, and it is a very hyper word right now, and everyone is going sustainable. Everyone is like go green and all. How would you say how much is it important to be sustainable in our particular industry? Because it is one of the highest growing industry, and it leaves carbon footprint. How do you say we can go sustainable, and how do you think it is important?
I think it's important for everyone who's part of the travel industry. And most of the companies have realized it and have launched different initiatives. So within our group, I think every office across the group has to give a sustainability report on a monthly basis where we clearly tell them that, okay, in terms of even electricity and in terms of the overall cars or other things that we are using or resources that we are using, what kind of footprint we are creating. At a group level, it's consolidated and we try to see, okay, how much we have increased or reduced our footprint. And that we are doing constantly. There are a number of contests that we organize to engage different employees. to let them come up with different ideas. So if you come to any of our offices, you won't find plastic cups. All the electric systems would have auto on and off, and then taps would have auto on and off. Just small things, but we are doing it across our offices globally, where we have a manpower of over 10,000. So when you add every single office, it results in a very significant number. And in addition to that, because we also have an airline within our group, I think there is very high sensitivity around how much carbon footprint we are creating. So a lot of initiatives happening, and that's because we don't only want to comply to a local regulation, but globally we want to be a responsible player in the industry.
By which is Ed. So, the sustainability is a topic which starts from, it has its ramification at the lowest granular level to a very highest level. In travel industry, most of the times we don't own anything. Like we don't own airline, we don't own hotel, but the carbon emission is happening there. We are the tour operator, we are whatever we are as a travel agent. So it becomes complex because now you have to gather information in terms of what was the carbon emission and etc. But it's very interesting. Uh, at a granular level, like the measures, like in our office also now, no more plastic bottles are given. The paper cups are given for the water. If you go further up, at the shops that we have, at the stores, the locations that we have, there is a an energy audit. We get this done so that we know whether the efficient use of energy is happening. Slightly at a bigger level, I mentioned earlier that SEBI has now mandated the top 1,000 listed companies from financial year 22-23 to report the measures that they are taking. There are these companies who are actually following the ESG. There are fund houses, the mutual fund houses, and the people invest there. Exclusively created ESG companies for the investment. So the analyst community, the investor community, it may be a very small currently, a minority, but the beginnings have happened. That there are companies or there are banks, there are lending institutions uh, who give a relatively lower interest rate to those companies follow the ESG are going to have an advantage through the better financing and all those things. In France, I don't know whether you are aware or not, but they have enacted or they are in the process of doing this. Any travel which is up to a particular kilometer, I think they've come up with some 200, 300, I don't remember now, but we can Google it. Any travel till that distance, they won't allow flights. It has to be through a rail. There has to be a rail travel which uses the electricity versus the fuel. So I think world at large is doing a lot on travel and tourism in terms of the sustainability. It's just a matter of time now in the extensive.
Yeah, just to add to what my panelists have been saying about this, there's a lot of conversation around sustainability, and there's something called as RFPs. RFP is a request for participation. Whenever they look for a new agency, when a corporate company, what kind of partners, be it airline, hoteliers, what they are doing to ensure that it's a sustainable uh, group, and those kind of questions need to be answered. In fact, we provide carbon offsetting as a way also to a lot of corporates who want to offset the carbon, like carbon footprint which they leave. Globally, like a lot of countries, there is publishing of how much carbon emission happened when you travel from a point A to a point B. So there is against that, you can also offset that by putting your resource into things like solar energy and all for the betterment of the world we live in.
Right? I'm already imagining that while the awareness is there, people are willing to pay premium for those tools where the carbon emission is lower, very minuscule percentage. But this is how the change starts, right?
for the beautiful insights. Your hands and mic will be shared with you.
So, hello everyone, my name is Ishan Jain, and as all of us have heard of the phrase that every penny saved is every penny earned. And as you were mentioning the COVID phase, that there was cost cutting, and as Emirates was also switching up the wine glasses, and operational efficiency was there, and you were switching to cargoes, and as Thomas Cook also, for example, you were looking at working capital expenditures. So, still, what are the top
So your question is, what are the costs?
the two main fields in which the expenses were still there and the
Okay.
cost was high for the expenses even during the COVID phase for both Emirates and as well as Thomas Cook.
Sure. So look, as a Thomas Cook, we run an establishment, so we have a network of branches, stores across 200 plus stores. There are people. So during COVID, while we did whatever we had to do, but the fact is that these were the costs, the payroll costs, people costs, and the cost of running the stores. While we had shut down the stores, we had, as the COVID program, we have to incur. So these are the top two costs that we had to spend. But I wouldn't worry on that. But I wouldn't even view this as a negative because these are the things when the things bounce back, they kind of contributed more than what they spent, right? In terms of people, in terms of the store. So it was a phase, and yeah, during that phase, these were the two major costs. Marketing, we had virtually stopped, so obviously there was no cost. But typically in our business, payroll cost is the top highest, and then the marketing cost comes, and then the third is the establishment, which is the cost of upkeeping the network that we have.
From our perspective, I think biggest cost was the technology cost because our systems are made to support a very large workforce of 40,000-50,000. And we have data centers either on cloud or all across the world. Now, just because it's COVID and we need to do work with lesser number of people, we cannot completely change our number of servers and data centers and network. And all the technology components come with the AMCs, where there are maintenance cost and there's fixed overhead. So that is something which you can't change because even if you want to change that cost, but that was component that we saw to continue with the technology cost.
Hello, sir. My name is Rishita. So my question is from risk, and you talked about credit risk, but you left out market risk, affected by market risk. So it could be due to the pandemic, but I would like to get some insights on that. And what measures are is the company taking towards it, and what lessons have you learned that during pandemic, if another pandemic hits, how will you save it? Like how will the company or the industry save itself?
Shareholder question.
So there's a
It's a sensitive thing, but okay, let me address it politically or as best I can. Look, share price, starting from 2019, August end or September 2019, which is exactly 4 years back, was the Thomas Cook UK confusion that happened. And these three things were not well understood by the market well. And obviously, despite a very good performance relative to the other players, and I can very well say Make My Trip, nobody is there for Make My Trip. So Make My Trip, although we keep on talking about, but Make My Trip is a loss-making company, right? In absolute terms, they would have reduced the losses over a period. Yes, in last quarter, March quarter, they reduced the loss significantly, but it's a loss-making. Versus the Thomas Cook, which is a profit-making company. But the fact is that market couldn't really realize that these three events happened, and but despite the good performance, so market kind of discounted our share price, and we did whatever we had to do in terms of the communication with the stakeholders. In fact, the best use of LinkedIn that we have done was that time. The senior management of Thomas Cook actually used the LinkedIn to clarify a lot of things. And on an average, we might have 25,000 viewers. So just imagine a top leadership team of 10 into 20,000. You count some common people. That was the power of social media. LinkedIn, we really used it. And that was 2019. And then by the time things were stabilizing, COVID came. And COVID was obviously 2020, 21, 22. But if you look at the performance since last 2 quarters of the company, there has been a massive improvement in the performance. And look, the share price won't just increase because you have 1 quarter of performance. The market would like to see a sustainable performance, a consistency, the word which we spoke so much few hours back to some of you. The consistent performance is what market is looking at. And since we are out from COVID, the recoveries are happening. And if you see the chart of share price over last 30 days, 30 to 45 days, it is rising. And then there are analysts who are covering us, and it's in public domain, so you can get to know what the future. So now at least the market is, or the analyst or the investor community is talking about what the growth prospects are, because the sustainability of or consistency has to be there in terms of that. Second question was, what are your learnings from the thing? And if suppose a second calamity has to happen, I think the key learnings are. I mentioned this in my earlier interview. CEC formula. CEC. C is communication, E is empathy, and C is collaboration. We spoke about collaboration a while back. I think what is important is when a calamity strikes you, it's important that you communicate well with your stakeholders, be it bankers, be it your employees, be it your board, be it your regulatory, be it any important stakeholder or auditors for them. Second is empathy. You have to take decisions based on empathy, keeping empathy in mind. And third thing is collaboration. The collaboration example that we did was collaboration is a life skill according to me. And when you have to do, when it's very difficult to keep aside, right? Do you agree with this or no?
Yes.
Right. So what we did as a team is that we actually reimagine all the businesses. We formed teams to come up with future of this company. Future. So we have multiple businesses. So each business we form teams, and we told these teams that you write future of this business now post COVID. What are the things that we want to do? And that was an example of collaboration. So people wrote the future, and now people are implementing it. So I think these are the learnings that we have. And lastly, and I had mentioned this in November also, some of you may remember, in the same room there, we had addressed this, the learnings out of COVID, the cash management. I don't know how many of you are there and how many of you remember this, but the cash management or the free cash flow and the working capital management is very, very important. You have to generate cash. You have to be focused on balance sheet. You have to, today's world, people focus on P&L target, but it's equally important that your P&L translates into that much of cash coming into your company. So the cash management becomes very important. So I think these are the learnings.
Thank you so much, sir.
Hello, panel. My name is Dhruv Godia, and I have two questions in my mind. One is for Vijay sir, and one is for the entire panel. So first of all, for Vijay sir, as he's the man of numbers, I want to ask that as we know that travel and tourism is an industry which offers impeccable amounts of discounts, and it's an industry which is famous for that. So how does that infrastructure, or I should say the back end of that particular side works, and how a company in that particular domain ends up becoming profitable like Thomas Cook? And the question for the panel, so there's one thing which I've been thinking about lately. I've stopped looking at businessmen as businessmen and managers, senior level managers as managers, because what I feel is that when someone like you people are in the market for a long time now, so I feel that people become philosophers. And the second question of mine is more on the philosophical side than the industry side. So the question over here is that as you see all of us sitting here, the major fear in our minds, which I'm assuming, is that Will we get placed in our dream job? Will we get good packages? Will we be able to make businesses which we want to? What is your biggest fear in life at this point of time?
Okay, so the first question, कभी भी discount free होता है? So that's the answer. Okay. Look, from a margin, from a discount management point of view, see, look, these are the techniques, for generating sales. But having said that, there are still cases where at times we get some sort of a benefits from supplier. So in a tour, for example, in a tour business, let's say there is a minimum operating strength. So a coach which has a capacity of 45 seats, right? So if the coach we operate at 45, the margins are higher as compared to if we had operated the coach at a lower strength, right? At times when we achieve a particular volume, then obviously there are some additional margins that we get. So we use this at times at a tactical level wherever we find a need to pass on some of the margins to the customer to garner more sale. We obviously do a back-end calculation of we do a cost benefit analysis. Look, we look at how much if we pass on this discount, how much is the additional sale that I am going to get. On that additional sale, obviously we are going to get profits, right? Or we have got so many gain from the back end. We said, okay, part of it can be transferred to the customer, part of it we retain in the company in a manner that we do a very judicious decision to not only to compromise our margin, but we also increase the sale side of it. So that's how we manage the overall margin management. What was the second question? The fear. Is the fear. I will allow my colleagues to, and then I will come in last.
Okay, I'll add on the first question. I think discount is a factor of multiple variables. Sometimes I'll throw in a discount to get market share. Sometimes I'll throw in a discount because I want to have more cash flow. I need more cash. Sometimes I'll throw in a discount just to launch a new product or introduce something new, maybe a new functionality, a new product element, then on cost or at a loss. It's a calculated decision from our side. So maybe what happens is we make you happier than you which I get. Okay, so I need to give up any of our revenues or losses. The second question is more about the number of op in your life at any point of time that you want to do. So tomorrow, if I want to quit my job, make me successful. Now, my big is to be stuck in a job or a role or in a situation where I.
So some of the fears which you have, the team over here would be having students try getting into the career sunshine is the same with somebody like me who wants to have enough for a rainy day. At the same time, fear is that might be when you go away without doing anything, and that fear is there.
Now, you become irrelevant. Either you are not catching up that I need to be relevant, with the people with whom I live. I need to be relevant to their way of thinking, relevant to their style of thinking. There should not be a gap. That gap in thinking, wisdom, etc., makes a big distance in anything. So that's it.
I thought you would say PNL, not talent.
Hello, good evening. This question is more of a marketer's query, and I think Manoj sir, this question will be directed towards you here. Yes. Anyways, so we all know that the consumer's perception changed after COVID, and which made you change your marketing strategies. We, in a way, understand what the Indian consumer thinks, but what I want from you is that since you have worked with teams that are in Australia, in Canada, in US, etc., etc., So you must be having an insight as to a comparative, how do I say, a comparative perception change that happened in these individual countries. Because eventually, a lot of us in this room will probably market products to different countries. So it's good to understand a comparison between the perception change.
Yeah, so we keep having chats, me with the other marketeers. And the fact is that some of the things which are relevant over here has similar resonance over there. Talks around duty of care, talks around sustainability is open over there also, over here also. There is also a conversation which happens around LGBTQ about equal rights, diversity over there much more than possibly here. And might be we will also reach a stage where we will have those conversations. Corporates will have loud and clear conversations around that. There is also, by the way, India in terms of the leads generated and the cost per lead is the least compared to say an Australia, USA, possibly because it's hard, it's more expensive to generate leads over there. What it also means is that over there it's more difficult to get hold of an opportunity versus over here. And and one of the reasons for that is because there is this blue ocean, this big opportunity which is the SME, the MSME space, and India is in that growth phase wherein a lot of them have need partners who can enable them to take them to the next level. So might be there isn't that much of opportunity. So for all the friends over here who are planning to go over there, here is the big opportunity compared to there also. That's one of the things I
I think we are running out of time, so maybe we could take only a few more questions. Might be one or two. So,
Hello, Ganesh. My name is Suyesh here. I actually wanted to ask that have you guys ever thought to go with a subscription model? Like if a customer pays 5,000 or 10,000 and there is the subscription fees of 10,000 and you decide that you will give discount of around 10 to 20% within a year for a trip. Have you ever guys thought about it? And if not, or ever had a conversation about it, and what was the reason why you declined this?
So I will answer from a B2B aspect because that question was relevant from a B2C part, but let me answer this from a B2B because we have a lot of corporates wherein we have implants. Implants are basically our guys sitting in the office, issuing tickets and getting their whole travel arrangement done. Pre-COVID, we used to not even ask for a cost for putting that resource over there. Post-COVID, with the cost repercussions and also the cost of keeping people on board, we have gone and asked and got monies for keeping implants, and we have been doing that across now, and that has become like a standard procedure.
So I just want to add from B2C perspective. I think there are a few startups who are working on this. If you Google OJD, there's a startup from Bangalore who have come up with this subscription model where you pay $999 or $1,999, take a annual subscription. You get free cancellations on any of your flights throughout the year, and you get some preferred rates on your meals and seat selection, and you get some discount vouchers of all the outlets which are there at the airport. So I think some startups are trying to break into that space, but I think most of the market is made up of B2B players. So that's where we don't do much on subscription, and that is something which won't work for our model. On B2C side, I think there are a few startups who are doing that. Some established players are not getting into this because there's a lot of risk. It's like running an insurance. You give something to 1,000 people and then hope only 100 people will claim. So there are only one or two startups in India who are doing this. In US and in Europe, a few more startups are doing it. in much more innovative manner. So there is a company, I'm not able to recall a name, which is into surprise travel. You take a subscription, you give them your holidays and dates you want to travel. There would be a questionnaire where they would take your preferences and interest. And 15 days before your holiday begins, you will get an envelope which would have some tickets, some details, and they would try to kind of keep it a secret for as long as they can so that you have some kind of excitement. And then you just kind of go there, enjoy your vacation, come back, and next holiday, even if you don't tell them anything, they would send you something else to go to some other place. So there is these kind of startups who are trying to break into new areas of travel and using the subscription model. So this is not like, okay, I'll design an itinerary and then you pay for it. They say, okay, in a year you pay me $50,000 and I'll give you 5 trips. Those are going to be surprise model, I mean surprise trips, and it can be across the world. So they will try to accommodate different kind of experiences and holidays, which would create more excitement. And there are many takers, many people who prefer that.
Organize on the B2C side, the existing established companies have not tried this model. It exists in some form, but it's more of a diluted one. So, for example, companies like Club Mahindra and Sterling, they have the timeshare. So obviously there is a membership that you pay and then you utilize their hotels and etc. Then sometime back, companies had tried this whole thing about recurring deposit. I think we had also tried several years back, I remember. These recurring deposits, so where every month you put some money, we open a account with a bank, sort of a recurring. So every month you deposit, and then I think the person had to deposit for some 10 months or 11 months, and then that's utilized for the upcoming travel. So in that sense, it was there. In one other case, it was more of a, in travel industry, the cancellation risk, be it airline or be it overall tour package risk, is always high. So a lot of times the companies actually collect some extra amount to protect the consumer from the cancellation. So, for example, if the customer pays that amount extra and then later on he or she cancels the tour, then the cancellation charges will not be levied on that. So, in some form, this has been tried, but yeah, like a straight Netflix model or etc. is not there. But maybe companies should look at it, I guess.
We can maybe take one more question if there are any. Last question, Lord.
Hello, panelists. My name is Mansi, and my question is from Manoj sir. Sir, I have a sole interest in marketing, and I am a tech person. So basically, my question is that too much technology advancement in tourism system a sector can hamper the growth of tourism. Like, let's say we talk about VR. So, as Brijesh sir has already said, that tourism sells intangible things. It sells experience. So, do you think that these kind of technological advancement can hamper the growth of tourism in future, and too much technology in terms of marketing may or may not show a relevant growth in terms of tourism sector?
So, Mansi, I think you overheard our conversation. We were doing a bit of a brainstorming chat around that. So, for starters, I'm a BSc chemistry person. I was selling medicines to doctors before I got into travel after doing my MBA. So, in that sense, tech or anything you do, and if you want to be in travel, I've seen tech only as an enabler. So, the various technologies, be it getting information about a place, trying to know about new destinations, the way you can do a booking of a place, getting connected. So these are all, according to me, enablers, and it has helped travel and tourism both progress and help create awareness and desire, interest for destination places, help bookings happen. So you will see a lot of companies who are actually tech guys or tech companies who are getting into travel Earlier it used to be only travel guys who were running travel shows, but now there's disruption in that sense. It started with Make My Trip and then a lot of them joining the bandwagon. And it has only helped evangelize and make travel or massify the way people travel. So it has only helped the cause of travel. And I think that's the way forward.
I think just to add on this, I think there are two startups in Europe who are working on content management, where if you're selecting your hotel room, you can actually get a complete 360-degree VR experience of that. And I think that would remove a lot of hesitation and reservation from the person who's booking. And similarly, you would see in airlines, especially on Emirates website, you can see 360 view of your seat, what you would be able to see around your seat. So I think these kind of VR technologies will act as an enabler and will help us improve the overall experience and the volume. So just imagine if you want to send your entire class to a trip somewhere, and decision maker is one of your professor, and we tell her that okay, take the VR and see how your students would experience this trip, and that would help her take a decision. So I think this will work more as an enabler, and there are many startups who are already using this.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
On that note, I would like to conclude this panel discussion. And as we come to the end of our discussion, I want to express my sincere gratitude to all the panel actively participating in this enlightening journey. Now, I would like to hand over the stage to Shirin for the closing and thank you.
Thank you, Abhishek. Am I audible? Yeah. Thank you, Abhishek, for facilitating smooth and efficient moderation. The insights shared by our distinguished panel members today was undoubtedly invaluable. I extend my deepest appreciation to each one of you for sharing your experiences and answering questions. Thank you so much for your time and kind words. Sincere thanks to the team of Atithya for providing us with the opportunity to host the panel discussion and smooth conducting of the event, all the coordinating teams for their timely assistance and support, faculty members for their guidance, and last but definitely not the least, our great audience for their active participation, patience, and questions. I would now request Dr. Sana Medula to present the token of thanks for our panelists. Sana, ma'am. Let's have a huge round of applause, everyone. Thank you everyone for being a part of this event. Safe travels and best wishes to all. Until next time. I request all the students to be seated here for the attendance, and for those whose attendance is already done, they may leave in a queue.
After the panel, please.